Welcome back, DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast, to the latest edition of off-seasoning. I don't know what we're up to now, but we're getting quite a way through the off-seasoning period. We missed last week's episode. We had a great feature interview with Jacob Abel about his 2025 IndyCar plans, or hopeful IndyCar plans, as well as just reviewing his Indy next season. But for this week, we have got a tiny bit of news to go over, mainly pertaining to the Indy 500 and Ryan Reinbold's driver announcement. And then we're going to do part 2 of the sponsor challenge that we started probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So we'll do the other half of the sponsors, which we didn't touch on that time, just to round out in true off-seasoning content. Hello listeners, it is Future Dan. So this episode was recorded. Devin DiFrancesco was announced at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. We'll be touching on that news next week, so you won't hear about it in this episode, so stay tuned for next week to get our thoughts on that move. Back to the episode. But let's start off with Ryan Reinbold Racing, because they have announced their pair of drivers which will participate in the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500. Those drivers are going to be Ryan Hunter-Reay and Jack Harvey. So the team can be lining up with Ryan Hunter-Reay, who goes for the 3rd consecutive season with the team, and he's going to be alongside Jack Harvey for 2025. Obviously, he's stepping away from full-time racing, did a season with Dale Coyne Racing, obviously, last year, but he's going Indy 500 only as his initial plans for 2025. Both entries have got support from Cusick Motorsports, as they have done the last couple of years with Don Cusick. Hunter-Reay's got his 3rd different teammate in 3 years. It's Stefan Wilson 23, Daly in 24, and we'll have Harvey in 2025. We'll start off with Hunter-Reay, because it's not really surprising. Last year had that really nice Fast 12 run, a bit of an unexpected Fast 12 run. Obviously, the race didn't end as they hoped, but for a part-time team, having a Indy 500 winner in Ryan Hunter-Reay is absolutely massive, and having that continuity, I think, is also a key value for them, and such an experienced head. And Hunter-Reay still got the mojo, and we'll see how he gets on.
Yeah, I mean, he was really competitive last year, and I mean, the race was purely unfortunate having that coming together with Dixon that sent him into that rather spectacular 360 that he somehow managed to keep off the wall. But yeah, unfortunately, that ended his day. But I think just to make the Fast 12 in that Indy-only effort was really impressive. And as you say, the stability for a team that obviously focuses only on Indy is an important thing. Yeah, I think Hunter-Reay's achievement last year, making the Fast 12 for that Indy-only effort, obviously at the time there was still all the talk about, well, what will come with the charter system? Will there be entries guaranteed into the field? So I think it was an important kind of showcase of the value of the Indy-only efforts, and Dreyer and Reinbold are obviously spearheading that charge of teams that focus solely on the Indy 500. And yeah, as you say, the experience of Hunter-Reay, that bit of continuity for a team that obviously only does one race a year, should be pretty important. Obviously, his race ended, well, quite spectacularly with that 360 after contact with Scott Dixon. He kept out the wall pretty impressively in the end. So yeah, that would be cool, that continuity. And this is always a genuinely pretty competitive effort. I think both of their drivers spoke about the fact that they believe this is a team that could upset the odds, that can contend for wins, because, okay, they don't have the full season of experience, but they come into the month of May completely fresh, and all of their focus and resources and personnel and everything year round is geared up to this one event.
Then you got Jack Harvey on the other side of the garage for 2025. He's going in the entry that Conor Daly went into last year. As I said, Harvey's now stepped away from full-time racing. He's given opportunity. He obviously didn't do the 500 last year, because that's when Nolan Siegel took his entry. So he's back for the first time since 2023. It's going to be his 8th 500, best finish of 9th. I wouldn't say it's particularly ambitious for the team. I don't think Harvey's done loads in the 500s shout home about, apart from knocking his teammate out in 2023. But again, it's more of an experienced head, which I guess for a team like Ryan Reinbold is a benefit. That's sort of a theme that they tend to do. They tend to like experienced figures at the 500 as opposed to a rookie or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think, again, there's too much to touch on for Harvey. I would say it was maybe a slight surprise for me when I heard about the news. But yeah, he's there. He's in the second car, replacing Daly, which we'll probably touch on the implications of that in a minute. But he's going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, apparently, according to Dennis Reinbold, the conversations with Jack Harvey kind of went back a little while, and you'll hear from Jack in a moment. But his kind of intention this year was always just to get an Indy 500 program locked down. He was tasked with being kind of the leader of that really unstable coin effort last year, which was such a difficult task. But it really seems like a full-time gig in IndyCar just was never really on the cards. Is it something he was really pushing super hard for? Maybe not. I think he always wanted just to make sure he had a drive in May. So it's an opportunity for him. He's again spoke really highly of the fact that this is a team that, with all their resources pointed towards Indy, he feels like it could be his best shot yet. I still love watching the moment in qualifying in 2023. That was proper Indy 500 heritage. Harvey, the last moment on that ambitious run with little time to cool the car, knocking out teammate Graham Rahal. That was really quite something. But no, I think, yeah, it's hard to say masses more really. I think he's obviously got partners on board, Harvey, that have kind of helped to facilitate this effort. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. I'm glad we will get to see him, because he's obviously a pretty likable guy and has been a part of the furniture in IndyCar in recent years. It's just, sadly for him, kind of petered out since he left Meyer Shank for RLL and then obviously ended up at Coin.
Yeah, he's only got one top 10 in the last 3 seasons, which, yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle bus for Harvey, but he's got another chance. And, winning the Indy 500 can really change some people's careers. I mean, look at Helio winning it in 2021 and then pretty much getting another 2-3 seasons to run out.
So we spoke to Ryan Hunter-Reay, Jack Harvey, and also team owner Dennis Reinbold, who I asked a bit about the charter system and whether that would have any implications for them as an Indy 500 only team. Spoke a little bit about a reset possibly for the team in 2027. So that's something to watch out for. So here is Hunter-Reay, Harvey, and Dennis Reinbold. I'll kick it off with Jack. At the moment, what is the rest of the year looking like for you? What are your plans? What do you want it to look like? Could that be more IndyCar? Could it be IMSA? Could it be broadcasting? What does it look like for you at the moment?
To be honest, mate, the first port of call was just to get something locked up, and doing this deal was our number one priority. We put all of our time and our effort and our resources into just locking this up. Why did we want to be here? Because we feel like it's the best shot I've had at going to the Indy 500 and really being able to compete. As far as how things develop after that, I'm not anticipating doing too terribly much before the Indy 500, because, as everyone's already said, the focus is making sure that we arrive at May in the best possible state from a preparation stance. What happens after May? I mean, I don't know, mate, honestly. Kind of just play that by ear. Obviously, I've expressed an interest in some commentating and some commentary work. If that progresses, I would say that's a pretty fantastic opportunity too. I think that people forget that, in my heart, I also am just a race fan. I love being in the IndyCar paddock, and at least from that perspective, have something that I think is a little bit unique to share. However, just everything around May is the primary goal. It's the primary objective, and all of our desires are very aligned, which is what I think is going to make this May really good. So nothing that's going to take focus off the 500 at least.
Thanks, Jack. And for Ryan, when you think of an kind of Indy-only entry, what is it that makes that so special as a part of the 500? And looking back to last year, how special was it achieving that fast 12 run with an Indy-only team against these teams that compete full season long?
Yeah, I mean, the Indy-only effort, really, when you get the right group of people together, has a lot of advantages. You have the advantage of really just focusing the car, the build, the body fit, everything, all the details that go into making a race car fast at Indy. You have the advantage of just focusing on that alone. You also have the advantage of getting into the month of May. Most of the rest of the paddock spit out the backside of the GP. They're all tired. They want to go home. It's just another kind of day at the racetrack, where for us, it's quite a bit different than that. So there are advantages. Disadvantages are that we are, we're going to hit our stride as a team in how the minute to minute goes on the radio strategy, all that stuff. We're hitting our stride during the race, right? We haven't had We haven't had a go at it in a race prior to that. And that's where we have to be very, very cognizant of making sure that we're on top of all of that. But aside from it, I mean, it makes it, Indy is what our passion is, especially for me. The 500 is it. The rest of the kind of season revolves around that. But to be able to just focus on that one, it just makes it that much more enjoyable, just purely from a driving perspective.
And then for Dennis, we've obviously had the charter agreement come in. I'd just maybe like to get your take on that. Obviously, everybody's going to have to qualify for the 500, which is great. But as an Indy-only team, will there be any kind of implications for you, or is it kind of business as usual?
I don't think there's any implication about the charter situation for the Indy 500 for the next 2 years. Obviously, we're pointing at 27 as a bit of a reset, that there's going to be new cars, new engine programs coming in, and we want to look toward being part of that. And so at that point in time, the charter becomes an issue. But for the near future, for the next 2 years, it's not an issue at all at Indy. They have said that they're not going to carry that over to Indy, which I appreciate and hope that continues long term, no matter what. Because Indy was basically founded on the fastest 33 go out and race each other, and we see what we have. May the best man or woman win is kind of how it is. So I like the purity of that and the history and the nostalgia of that aspect of the Indy 500 and just the traditions in general. It's like it's just such a great place to go to and be part of. It's an honor to be part of that program. So we don't take that lightly, and we work really hard in the off season. We've been working really hard. Ryan alluded to it earlier from our tests. We figured out where some deficiencies we have as a team, and we have to absolutely attack the new hybrid system and figure out how that's going to impact our setups. And it's going to impact everyone equally. So whoever figures that out the best is going to have the better chance of coming out on top. So we're dedicated our resources pretty much full time. We've worked hand in hand with Chevy, our partner, since the end of the race last year. We've worked with them. They put their neck out to get us as part of that test that we did in October. And so we're working with them as well to try to develop and see what's out there with the hybrid system. It's going to introduce a lot of challenges for all of us. So we're focused on that and head down and test and figure out what we can.
But as I said, this means that Connor Daly won't be there. And you felt like Daly was a bit of a shoo-in for Ryan Reinbold unless he had other commitments elsewhere. And could that be at Hunkos Hollinger Racing? Well, it certainly could be, especially after it was something posted on the Polka.Dot website about their motorsport events in 2024. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but they mentioned events at St. Petersburg, the Thermal, Indianapolis, Road America, Iowa, and a couple of others. And it's like, well, hang on, where are Polka.Dot going to be in 2024? That sounds like a bigger program. So could Connor Daly be heading off to Hunkos for next year? Well, I think this announcement potentially only helps that theory.
I mean, I don't even know if I'd call it an announcement, to be honest. It appeared to just appear on the Polka.Dot website that this was their kind of racing calendar. So I mean, Daly on his own podcast has been saying he has been efforting. He's been trying really hard to get something secured at Hunkos. They really like him after what he did at the end of last season. Obviously, getting the podium at Milwaukee being the highlight. I think Daly actually posted, I don't know whether it was an Instagram story. He was at the Hunkos Hollinger Racing. I think it was Christmas party. So that doesn't seem like something that would happen if there wasn't a pretty good relationship there and something that could happen to continue or develop moving forward. I think he also put out a tweet saying something about looking good in a green and black and white car or something. So there's some sweet talking going on there. I think it seems like that may happen. I mean, yeah, he's certainly trying hard. He has that backing of Polka.Dot. So yeah, we'll see. But I think from some of the hints that are kind of emerging on social media and so on, Daly reuniting with Hunkos alongside Stingray Rob does seem like a possibility.
Not the most exciting lineup I think I've ever heard, but we'll see what comes out of that. Someone who we know won't be in IndyCar next year is Jamie Chadwick, who's announced that she's doing a program in the European Le Mans. So she's sort of sniffing. We essentially just suggested would she be a corner somewhere. I'll be honest, it didn't feel like the right step up. I don't think I'd be fully confident in Chadwick, especially if she'd have to run an additional program, which she'd have to qualify. But she sort of conceded that she won't explore IndyCar options, at least in this stage of her career. So there was a suggestion, which I think we probably spoke about at one point, but that won't happen next year at least.
I know she seemed fairly positive after the test, but I wonder whether it was just the fact that, I mean, obviously there were limited options out there for her, and maybe the test just outlined that she isn't quite ready. I still think another year in Indy Next would have been cool, because I think she would have been a probable title contender after the 2 years and the progress, especially that she made last year, obviously picking up that first win. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could well just be that the options simply weren't there, but at the same time, she had the test, and if the test went extremely well, then, you know, maybe there's a higher chance she'd be in a seat, because, I mean, she'd be a fantastic asset for the series if she was to have made that step up. But
you also don't want to force somebody who's out of their depth.
Exactly.
So.
And I think that's probably what will have happened in the end. And that's why I almost would have liked to see her do another year in Indy Next. But maybe it simply is that this avenue, she wants to explore another avenue.
But I'm also glad maybe it feels like she's conceded a little bit. Well, actually, this isn't the right step in my career for me, which I think is a good assessment. In smaller U's, Joseph Newgarden's faces on the Borg Warner again. It's interesting. It's like it looks a lot different to the one the previous year, which I don't really know.
It's got more hair. Has it not got more hair this year? His hair seems to have gone a bit taller.
His face also looked a bit longer from what I remember. This year definitely. Well, no, I think last year looks more like him than it does this year. To be honest, he does have more hair, and his face is a bit longer. So, yeah, there you go. There's the analysis there. They had like a little ceremony thing. I don't really know how it works, but it's an American thing, isn't it? Which we're never going to quite understand. But... Yeah,
I've not actually got around to watching that. I will watch that at some point and maybe report back on.
I can't believe they have a whole ceremony for somebody's face on a trophy.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool though. It's clearly a big tradition relating to the 500, getting your face engraved on the trophy. Obviously done kind of fresh every year, which is why obviously it's two slightly different editions of Joseph Newgarden. So yeah, that's always a cool part of the
Indy 500
tradition.
Does he just go into somewhere post race and take a picture of him and mold it off this picture? I don't know.
It could well be the case.
I don't know. Right, so now's the time for the second segment of our sponsored challenge. So if you weren't there for the first segment, what this is our theory was, one of the stumbling points is IndyCar can't host a race in the UK because they need to change all their sponsors, basically, would be the issue. So we're making IndyCar teams' lives really easy by finding out the equivalent sponsors to their sponsors that are based in the UK. So all they need to do is contact these sponsors and work out the finances, and we're sorted. Relivery the cars, we're doing all the work for them. We're basically finding out the UK equivalents of each sponsor, which, as we found out last week, half of these sponsors don't exist. Half of these sponsors do really niche things. Half the sponsors, we still can't really understand what they do. There's many stumbling blocks.
Yeah, and kind of just adding on to that, that's another fun part of this exercise, is we are actually getting to know these many sponsors, and many of them are very obscure, as I've once again learned this week.
Yes. Is it when we started this, we were like, oh, this would be easy. It'd just be like Harvey finding a UK supermarket or PNC Bank finding a UK bank, and we realised it's not that easy. Well, it's not that easy. So we're doing the Honda teams this week. I believe I have a few more than yourself. So
okay, do you want to kick it off then?
But I will kick it off with Kevin Simpson's sponsor, which was the Journey Rewards on the number 4. So Journey Rewards seems to be like a Canadian-based company, interestingly. So I don't really think they have any presence in the USA or much presence. So if you remember, Pelot ran a Journey Rewards in Toronto last year, which
when he had his front wing half hanging off, that was an impressive drive.
Yes. So the description I've got, so Journey Rewards, you can collect and redeem points for gas and convenience store discounts. So you get various discounts for gas and items for basically a loyalty program, and you can claim these at apparently over 11,000 gas stations across Canada. So I basically saw it as like an app bounty for petrol stations or something like that. I'm not going for app bounty. I've just gone, as there is no direct UK equivalent for the Shell Go Plus rewards app.
Nice. So my first one was the funky Linus Lundqvist Long Beach unfrosted Netflix promotion livery. So I've kind of thought, what is something that is quintessentially British, maybe on a rival streaming platform? So I've gone for Amazon Prime's Clarkson's Farm, hosted by Jeremy Clarkson of Top Gear fame.
Nice. The next one I had was maybe the easiest one in the entire list, the American Legion, who are an organisation of US war veterans, actually based in Indianapolis, of all places. You couldn't really have much easier. I've just gone for the Royal British Legion, who are a British charity providing financial, social and emotional support to war veterans in the UK. So pretty easy one there.
Very nice. I think I might have one that's even easier coming up here. So I had Alex Pillow's DHL. So just sort of another kind of mail delivery transportation sort of company. I've gone for Royal Mail.
So DHL do operate in the UK, just in case our international listeners are wondering. It's still quite big in the UK, but it's got to be Royal Mail.
Very big in the UK. There's a lot of DHL presence, but we want to go for something different.
So we've got the Royal British Legion and Royal Mail next, which that is an excellent lineup at Ganassi. I do like that. Unfortunately for PNC Bank, we have no Royal British Bank. So there is a Royal Bank of Scotland, actually, in fairness, but I didn't go for them. So it's an American bank, obviously, operates in 27 states with 2,629 branches. It's actually the 8th biggest bank in America. So I've gone for Nationwide as the UK equivalent. The only reason is in the global bank rankings, that was the closest UK one to PNC Bank. So PNC Bank was 62nd, Nationwide was 78th. So going for the Nationwide car for Dixon.
So my next one is Samaritan's Purse, which I actually didn't remember, but this is the livery I think that Alex Pillow ran at Gateway. So it's apparently a disaster relief company, which again is actually a more global thing. So just again, for the sake of going for something different, I've gone for the Red Cross.
Nice. So I go on to Marcus Armstrong. We had some weird liveries. First one I had was Ridgeline, and it took me ages to find out what Ridgeline actually was. But it's the largest independent operator of retail and commercial industrial fuels in the US, Canada, and the Caribbean combined. So it's lubricant, so it's Ridgeline Lubricants as the brand. The closest I could find was... Ridgeline also covers automotive, agricultural sectors and that sort of thing. So I've been looking at brands like Valvoline was one. They have a UK brand called Certas Lubricant Solutions, who do both automotive and agricultural sectors. So I think they're probably the closest thing that I could find.
So my next one, and I think also doing this kind of enlightens as well, there are some genuinely really good causes that these teams are sponsored by. I think the American Legion obviously is one with their initiatives, but also Marcus Armstrong was sponsored this year by the IU Comprehensive Cancer Centre, which is an Indiana University-led cancer centre, basically. So the UK equivalent, I would say, would be Cancer Research UK. So good causes.
Great. So I'll do two to round off on Armstrong, so I said I've got a few more. So next one is Root Insurance, who are an online car insurance company. There's not many UK insurers specifically directed at cars. So I've gone for Liverpool Victoria Car Insurance, which is the one with the green heart, which has the famous advert, dom, dee dee dom, that one. So everyone knows them. It's a traditional UK brand for insurance. So nice green car there, which would be pretty funky. And then in Toronto, he ran one called On the Run. Now, I thought this was some branding for some other company, but I was wrong. So once I found out it's a flagship convenience store brand, he used Exxon and Mobile One stations in the United States. It's like a convenience store, basically, petrol stations. So what they do is they sort of sell snacks, groceries, health and beauty supplies, apparently. They did have like an equivalent in the UK, but I didn't really understand it, to be honest. But the closest thing is they've got some link to Esso, and Esso run petrol stations which have like convenience stores inside them in the UK. So again, for Esso.
Okay, cool. So we're now getting on to some of the slightly strange RLL ones. So Well, I'd say slightly strange. To be fair, this one's another one that was a good cause. So Code 3 Associates, and I did a little bit of reading, I think it was on the RLL site actually, about the sponsor, and it's something to do with like animal rescue, I think was what I got. So I did use this last time, but I'm going to have to use it again because it's just the most applicable. It's the RSPCA, so an animal care rescue organization.
So I've got more banks because I've got the Fifth Third Bank for Graham Rahal. I described it as just another bank in it. It's based in Ohio. It's got 1,100 branches. And again, I base this off which one is the closest in size in the UK. So it's got 214.5 billion in total assets, while Santander is the closest for the UK with 275.4 billion in total assets. So we're going for Santander for the number 15.
Nice. So the next one is Hendrickson, which actually was run by Catherine Legg, wasn't it, in the 500 in 2023? But I think it was on Graham Rahal's car this year. I'm just Googling it again because I'm not the most sure what it actually was.
Rahal had the most liveries out of anyone, just through knowledge. So he had 9 different sponsors. That's an average of less than 2 a race. For average of 2 races per sponsor, I should say, which is rather interesting.
Yeah, okay. So Hendrickson, it seems like quite a niche, if I'm getting this right, but they are something to do with like building suspension, like heavy suspension for, I think especially it was like military type vehicles. So I just found a random suspension company in the UK called Pedders Suspension UK. Free promo for them.
Next one I had for Graham was Fleet Costing Care. So he only ran this at one race the entire year, which was in Long Beach. So again, this one, I didn't really understand what they do, to be honest. So I sort of had to guess it a little bit. But they are a fleet management solution that help businesses in heavy equipment rental, excavation, construction, agriculture, and other industries manage dispatching, schedule jobs, log inventory, and more on a centralized platform. Didn't really understand it. Still don't really understand it. But I've gone for fleetcheck.co.uk, who manage all your vehicle and driver information in one place. You never miss an MOT service, license check, or vehicle safety inspection again. Still don't understand, but
yeah. So iPacket is kind of similar-ish. It's more to do with the vehicle, and another thing that is quite hard to understand. They are a leading provider of digital vehicle presentation and delivery solutions for the automotive industry. I just found a place called Audacia. I still don't even know what they really do. They're located in Yorkshire, in Leeds. They're a leading UK software development company. So something to do with software.
Next one I had was United Rentals, who ran on the car in Toronto and the Indianapolis 500. This one is a bit more mainstream, thankfully. So United Rentals are an American equipment rental company with about 16% of the North American market shares of 2022. There's the largest rental fleet in the world with approximately 4,700 classes of equipment, totaling about 19.3 billion. So it's a pretty big company. Obviously, you can rent equipment from them, whether that's machinery or heaters or whatever. So the closest I found was Sunbelt Rentals UK, who are the UK's largest rental equipment provider.
So the next one for me, it's actually another animal charity called One Cure. So it's basically a kind of veterinary service is what I kind of interpreted from it. One of their goals is to improve the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of cancer in pets, which again is another really nice cause. So I've gone for Vets for Pets.
So next one I went for was Mobile One, who are quite a mainstream brand. That was the gold livery Rahal ran in Laguna Seca. So they're a brand of synthetic motor oil and other automotive lubrication products. Again, they do sell them in the UK, but to make it interesting, I went for Liquimoly, who used to sponsor F1 for a few years ago. They're actually based in Germany, but they do have quite a big presence in the UK, and obviously sponsoring F1, they are quite global. So gone for Liquimoly.
Interesting. So we're now on to Invest, which is Jack Harvey's sponsor for the year. So their motto is make money work for your business. They're a personal wealth management building program designed for you, by you, so you can live a wealthy work optional life before and beyond retirement. It was, I mean, what I got from it is that it's about managing your wealth. I went for Shopify, which is something to do with it's an e-commerce platform for businesses. I don't know whether it was any link; it just had some common words. So
when Hunter McElroy ran in Toronto, he didn't really have a primary sponsor, but he did have McDonald's on the side of his car. Now, it isn't actually a McDonald's. It seems to be some franchise of a McDonald's somewhere or other. So, obviously, McDonald's does have quite a global presence, and it does exist in the UK. But for the sake of being different, I had to do it. We've got to go for Greg's. Greg's on the side of a car. That wouldn't a massive sausage roll on the side of the car or something. That's what we like to see. It's got to be Greg's. It's not in America. So, for Americans that don't know, Greg's is like a fast food, like bakery sort of thing. So they've got like sausage rolls on the go, and they've got pastries, and you can buy sandwiches. It's like fast food mixed with like a sandwich shop. You get a bit of you get donuts and that sort of thing. So it's got a lot. It's like a bakery, fancy bakery.
Just while we're on this topic, I will flip-flop actually and go for King Taco, who I think sponsored Nolan Siegel in Long Beach when he was with Coin. So again, kind of thinking fast food, restaurant type thing. What is quintessentially British? Fish and chips, the chain called Harry Ramsden's, which is a fish and chip chain. So the Harry Ramsden's Honda.
So next one I had was AutoNation. And I said last time that there's so many different providers for car dealerships. So, we had HendrickCars.com, Beaumarito Automotive Group, Penske, do them Hendrick Cars, as I said already, Carvani, to sponsor Jimmy Johnson. AutoNation is another one of them, but they actually might be the biggest dealership in the US. So they're absolutely huge, apparently. And they have about 300 outlets. And the biggest one I can find in the UK is called Arnold Clark. It's the biggest dealership in the UK. I've got 193 dealerships.
Yeah, they're synonymous with Vauxhall for me for some reason. I'm going to do a double bill here just because I've got the two Group 1001 sponsors, so Gamebridge and Delaware Life, which are both kind of... I didn't really understand it. I mean, Dan Towris in this Group 1001, these sponsors, has been an absolute revelation for the sport. I mean, he's now on a journey to F1 with a journey that started with Zach Veach and his vicar recommending Dan Towris as Veach wanted to get on and to get into the Indy 500 for the first time, and somehow that's indirectly led to this Cadillac F1 effort. So yeah, just a little bit of backstory there. So Gamebridge and Delaware Life they're both kind of insurance-y type companies. So, I mean, I'm not going to dwell on it for too long because it's not the most exciting thing ever. For Gamebridge, I've gone for something called tom.co.uk, and Delaware Life, I've gone for Money Supermarkets.
Fine. So
I don't know if they're linking at all, but I didn't really understand.
So I did two then in that case. So next one is Oakbury, who Pietro Fittipaldi ran on a few occasions across the course of the year. Try and find out if he ran it in St. Petersburg. That was the only one, actually. So what Oakbury is, they say it fills a need for the healthy fast food in the market. They're on a journey to make something called ACAI, ACAI, known and appreciated all over the globe. I think it's like some South American drink. And they make healthy bowls of smoothies that are now enjoyed by millions worldwide, especially those focused on their well-being. So it's like fast food, but really healthy. Apparently, they make like these really like gourmet smoothies and drinks, which are designed on health and well-being. They've actually got about 10 stores in the UK, so they're actually quite international. They're mainly based in Brazil. They do have a few UK stores, but there's not really any UK health-focused fast food. So the closest thing I could find was Leon, which are those stores you always find in like train stations and airport ones. They seem quite upmarket, healthy sort of things. That's what I went for that one. And then 5 Hour Energy, which is an American-made energy shot. So I haven't done too much research into this, but I actually think Europe have forbidden this sort of drink because there's too much caffeine in a small drink, apparently. So I think Europe might have banned it, but I don't know. But as I said, there's not a direct UK comparison for this, but apparently 5 Hour Energy own 90% of the market share for energy shots. But apparently Red Bull have tried it in the past. So the Red Bull was sort of the closest thing I could find. If we're going general energy drink, it probably would be Red Bull anyway. And his brother used to be part of the Red Bull Academy, so maybe that means something.
So my next one was my favourite, and I'm still convinced I might be misunderstanding this, but my Jack is something to do with cranes. It's I'll read the explanation. Over 70 years of innovation, my Jack products, engineers, and manufactures the most reliable and durable rubber-tired gantry cranes. So I was thinking, what have I ever seen as a brand on the side of a crane? And down in the lovely county of Cornwall, and the town of Falmouth, where I occasionally go on holiday, there is a dock and there is a crane that has A&P on the side of it, which is what I've chosen. But my Jack is probably the slightly most outlandish sponsor that anyone has. It's crane. They make cool cranes. The sort of things you'd see at like a marina to lift boats out of the water, I think.
So the next one I had was Luther, which I couldn't find anything for ages, but I did eventually. And guess what it is? Just have a guess.
I couldn't tell you.
It's another car dealership. So I'm on my about 6th car dealership at this point. I'm getting a bit fed up with them. It's got 50 plus locations and 14,000 vehicles, but apparently only operates in 7 states. So it's not very common. Fittipaldi only ran these in Iowa, to my knowledge. They claim, I know everyone claims this, but they claim they're the fastest growing dealership group in the country. So in that case, I've ordered it to Redgate Lodge because they were the UK's fastest growing dealer in 2022. I'm sick of car dealerships. I generally think this must be the 5th one I've had. So we'll move on.
So I've now got another Pietro Fittipaldi Brazilian sponsor, which is Eurofarma, which is a Brazilian multinational corporation engaged in biopharmaceutical manufacturing. So I've looked for a biopharmaceutical manufacturing company in the UK. I don't know how we've got to this on an IndyCar podcast, but we have. So it would be Artios Pharma, which doesn't sound very British, but it is British.
Yeah, I mean, we're reflecting this at the end, but some of these sponsors I've gone from, like, how are they making any money from sponsoring this driver? Who is buying these products based on these sponsorships? Like, who's going to all these car dealerships or whatever? I don't know. Because most of them are designed for businesses. So you're relying on businessmen watching the IndyCar in order to be successful with the sponsorship. I don't know. Anyway, talking of weird Brazilian brands, the next one was Morva Group. Couldn't find really much about them. They claim they specialize in construction, entrepreneurship, sector research and development, and energy accumulation. I think they just make car batteries, to be honest. They only seem to really exist in Brazil. I don't really know why they sponsor Fittipaldi because in the US it doesn't really seem like they have much, to be honest. They sponsored him once in Portland. I literally cannot find much about them at all, but I think they make car batteries. There's a brand in the UK apparently called USA who make car batteries. That's all I'm going off because there's not much here to go off.
You're fed up of car dealerships. I'm fed up of insurance companies. Hub is another RLL sponsor, and they've actually insured RLL, I think, according to some things that I read. So there's not much more to say. They're an insurance company. I've gone for, and this works quite well because it's Hub, HUB, just capital letters, BIBA, which is the British Insurance Brokers Association.
Next one I've gone for is Hy-Vee, which is one I was looking forward to because it's easy. It's just a chain of supermarkets that operate in the Midwest and southern United States. They've got about 280 locations, apparently. So I've shown like a quintessentially British supermarket. And apparently Hy-Vee was slightly more on the expensive side, but not ridiculously overpriced. So I've gone for Marks and Spencer's.
Nice.
That's because apparently they're getting cheaper nowadays, Marks and Spencer's. But for our American listeners, they're sort of a higher end supermarket. There's a bit of a stereotype associated with Marks and Spencer's, but it's not actually that expensive. People make it out to be. But put it this way, they only put Marks and Spencer's in nice locations. So, and they sell a bit of everything. They do clothes and all sorts. So That would be a very quintessentially British sponsor. The Marks and Spencers Ray Hall and Lanigan racing car.
So my next one is, well, probably the most prominent sponsor, I would say, of the year. I think they've actually won awards for their sponsorship of Catherine Legg, particularly pertaining to the Indy 500, all the activations they've done. And I mean, Elf Cosmetics is what I'm talking about. And they've done, by all accounts, a fantastic job at introducing more women to IndyCar racing and to motorsport, which has been super cool. They've run some really cool initiatives. So they have been a fantastic asset to the series over the year. And I think it's a British company. It's probably something that operates over here. I don't know anything about makeup. I'm not going to lie. So I've gone for Sephora.
Right, so I've been dumped with a lot of the, well, so have you in fairness, but I've got a lot of the really random coin sponsors, which they were a bit weird than RLL sponsor. The first one I've got is called Bimek, who sponsored Giotto. And they're based in Italy, obviously, just being Italian. But from what I gather, they do aftermarket bolts and nuts for alloy rims. They're to do with tyres sort of thing. So I've gone for rimstyle.com, who do the same thing in the UK, apparently.
Interesting. The next one is, this is going to require me to do some more research again. Gav Air Technologies. Can you please tell me who they sponsored? Because I don't remember this.
So they ran in Road America and Laguna Seca. So that would have been Giotto.
Okay. Gav Air Technologies. It's an Italian leader in precision airbrushing and professional tools, and has grown to offer innovative gardening and irrigation products. I think this might be. I think this is the right thing. Gav Spa. I just went for Air Technology Limited because I didn't really know what I was looking for.
Right, we need to come back to something at a later point. The next one was one of the most bizarre ones, actually. It's called Falcon Motorsports, who did Vautier in Detroit. Now, you would think Falcon Motorsports was some motorsports team that maybe Vautier has driven for or something in his GT days. No, it's actually an American manufacturer of high-performance cars. I can't really find much about them. They have a flagship car called the Falcon F7, which they only produce a total of 7. So, very niche. And I was trying to look, so I'm looking for a UK premium supercar, which is quite small. So I was thinking Noble. Yeah, Noble was like a smallish sort of garage-based UK sports car brand. But I found one called Ultima Sports, who actually founded by the same guys founded Noble. And their top car is the Ultima Evolution. And I think they've only made 6 of them. So that's the equivalent I found for Falcon Motorsports.
So my next one is Quantilis, which is a 51 sponsor, Dalecoin Racing at Portland. So that would have been Toby Sowry, actually. So I do apologise, Toby, if I'm getting this wrong at all, but it is an AI-driven innovation site. So I just went for Dragonfly AI because it sounds cool, and I'm imagining some like Dragonfly livery that might be quite cool.
Fine. So Toby's other sponsor was the Global Karting League. According to the bio, this isn't just karting. It's the first step into your racing career. It was co-founded by F1 engineer Rob Smedley and a man called Ferdy Porsche. And the league is built to uncover potential and accelerate talent. And apparently you will in F4 seats, part of like a scholarship or something. Closest thing I could do, the British Kart Championship.
Next up for me is Arctic Wolf, which actually was the on one of my favourite liveries from the year, with Maya Shank Racing. It is a cybersecurity site, and I've gone with Dark Trace, which I believe is a sponsor of McLaren. I don't know whether on the IndyCar side, but I think it definitely is in the... Oh yeah, in fact it is on the IndyCar side as well. The cybersecurity partner of McLaren Formula One and Arrow McLaren.
So the next one I had was SiriusXM, who obviously ran over the 60 and the 66. It's a broadcasting corporation that provides satellite radio and online radio services. We know this is very different people in this car, like John Bon Jovi, Eric Clapton was maybe one. There was a few on there throughout the course of the year. I mean, the closest thing we could really do was Heart FM, wasn't it? Traditionally British radio station. It's got to be Heart FM. I'll do my next one because I've got another one compared to you. So I've gone for Armada, which is the number 75 Rahal Letterman Landing and Racing sponsor. So they are based in Japan. So I don't really know why they sponsor VIPs in Portland, but that's a different topic. The company manufactures metal cutting, forming, shearing, and punching machines, apparently. No idea what it is, but I've gone for something called Spirit Automation, who is the leading manufacturer of CNC flame and plasma cutting machines in the UK, and they said they cut metal, so I thought that will do.
Armada did sponsor Takuma Sato at the 500, did they?
As well, yes. As well.
So that's why I shouldn't have just stayed on the 75. Am I going with my next one?
Yes.
So it's Cleveland Cliffs, which was Helio Castro Neves's Indy 500 sponsor. I still don't. I'm not entirely sure what they do. They are the largest flat rolled steel company in North America. Do you know what a flat rolled steel company is?
Nope.
I found a company in the UK called the Metal Merchant. The Metal Merchant Honda sounds good. So that is my final one.
And to round off, I had Maypie, who sponsored Marco in the 500. So an Italian limited company founded in 1937 that manufactures chemical products for the building industry. So they do a UK presence apparently, but again, I didn't really want to research too much into UK construction chemicals. So I found a brand called Construction Chemicals UK, and they will do. As I said, I don't know how half these sponsors make any money on what they're sponsoring, because it can't be cheap to sponsor an IndyCar. How are Gavair Technologies making a profit on sponsoring Luca Giotto? I don't know. How Falcon Motorsports are making a profit on decided Tristan Vertier's car?
I'll tell you who will be making money, like My Jack and their cranes. Everyone wants to buy a crane. I want one for my back garden. It's easy enough to store.
Yeah. What's that? What's the most quintessentially British sponsor you've had over the last 2 weeks? Greg's
I think it's got to be Harry Ramsden's for me. Fish and chips.
Marks and Spencer's I quite enjoyed. If I look back to last week, I've still got them all written down. Too many of them we didn't really know. Dulux I quite liked instead of PPG. Halfords was a good one I had. That might be it pretty much of quintessentially British UK sponsors, but that's been an experiment. Which
I mean we've done it now. We probably won't do it again. But...
Yeah, it was a lot different to what I ever expected, to be completely honest.
Same.
I can see why nobody's ever attempted this before.
And I would also not blame you if you've kind of just switched off and gone insane at some of the randomness of this, but off-seasoning, everybody.
This is off-seasoning. Who do you run in your... If you could pick any quintessentially British sponsor for a IndyCar race in the UK, who would you drive for?
Oh, if I could?
Yeah, you could pick any UK sponsor.
Anything.
Any UK sponsor.
Wow. Kellogg's.
Well, they ran in NASCAR for a while.
Oh, did they? Okay, well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't pick that then.
PG Tips.
I think it's got to be Greg's, you know.
Greg's, yeah. Yorkshire Tea.
Yorkshire Tea is a good shout.
Imagine someone like Alex Below rocking up in the Yorkshire Tea.
that is a good shout.
That'd be excellent. If you've got any more quintessentially British sponsors, let us know. If people want us to do an Australian equivalent, the answer is absolutely no. We are not doing any more countries other than this. So IndyCar can only go to the UK. We're not doing their work if they go somewhere else, because I think we'll be here for a few years to run us researching. This was a lot harder than we ever thought it would be, I'll be completely honest. So,
I didn't even think of it. I was the first time we did it, I thought I was going to be able to turn it to the episode and just reel them off. I was very wrong.
Yeah, so I think I did about 5 on the top of my head across the course of 2 episodes, which wasn't exactly ideal. But Christmas is just around the corner. There will be about 2 weeks once this episode goes live, just over. So last minute shopping is around the corner. And obviously, FMS is the best place to get your IndyCar merchandise. We've just been speaking about Catherine Legg, and that's a great example because now Catherine Legg's merchandise is on discount. You can get the Elf driver shirt, which is discounted now to $39.99. And if you want to support Catherine Legg even more, you can buy a pink mug with the 51 on the side as well, which is a new arrival on the FMS site, which is the best place to get your IndyCar merchandise in the UK and, of course, the rest of Europe.
You can use the discount code 5BOMB, or one word, FIVEBOMB, to gain 5% off products on the FMS site. Visit the highlights on the DIVEBOMB Motorsport Instagram account for a link to an exclusive VIP section on the FMS store, courtesy of DIVEBOMB.
Or you can find the pink banner on the DIVEBOMB website, which takes you directly to the Formula Model Shop website. Alternatively, you can head to formulamodelshop.co.uk.
Stay tuned for exclusive giveaways, events, and other content. Right, yeah, time for your weekly history lesson, and we are up to the 1960s, so I will do the first half of the 60s, 1962, 1964, and there were no outlandish, fun, stupid things that I spotted. I'll be honest, I didn't have masses of time to look into it, but I think what stood out to me, and I'll give you a kind of potted version of this 5-year period, was that this was a great period of kind of milestones being reached, of more kind of technological evolutions. So starting in 1960, it's actually regarded, and this is according to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway website, as one of the greatest Indy 500s ever held. It was won by Jim Rathman, who had previously finished runner-up 3 times. He fought with a man called Roger Ward, who was the defending winner. And he was apparently the pair were fighting within a matter of feet for pretty much the full second half of the race, which was something that was pretty unparalleled at the time. So again, that's evidence of the racing kind of continuing to get better as we go further into these time periods. It was actually a late pass for the win from Rathman as Ward's tyre started to essentially break apart. Then 1961, ultra significant because that was when AJ Foyt won the first of his 4 Indianapolis 500s, the first one coming at the age of 26 in what is regarded as another classic race. He was in a bit of jeopardy late on. He wasn't given a full load of fuel in his final stop due to some sort of issue. So he had to come into the pits for an emergency late stop with, I think, around 16 laps to go. But he would charge right back into the lead as pole sitter Eddie Sachs had led the race, but was forced to come in and change his tyres with 3 laps to go. So more tyre concerns. Tyre deg back in the 60s, eh? And in this edition in 1961, 2-time defending Formula One world champion Jack Brabham competed and finished 9th. So that's one of the cooler nuggets from this period. Moving on to 62. Parnelli Jones was the first to break the 150 mile per hour mark in qualifying. All 4 of his qualifying laps were in excess of this. The final few hundred yards of bricks had been actually paved over, so that partially, I think, led to this speed increase. But after 300 miles, Jones had a brake failure when he was leading. He still managed to finish 7th. And interestingly, when he came in for his pit stop, he actually had to drive for the wall to ensure he stopped. 1963 was one of a little bit of controversy. Parnelli Jones was leading, but had oil dripping from his car, and it was one Jim Clark making his Indy 500 debut that was running in 2nd. He essentially dropped back, expecting for Jones to be black flagged, but that black flag never came. I think there was a bit of outrage among the media and fans after this, but Clark was gracious in his defeat and became very good friends with the great late Parnelli Jones. And then the final one from this period, 1964, was, well, Jim Clark took the pole and raised the lap record to 159.828 miles per hour. AJ Foyt won this race. That was his 2nd Indy 500. And quite significantly, this was actually the final victory for a front-engined car. And heading into your time period next week, Dan, I think it will emerge that front-engine cars completely died out within a matter of years. So it was significant, and it was another, I guess it was the changing of an era from a technical standpoint. And unfortunately, there was some tragedy as well in 1964. It was the first time a race had to be stopped, not for rain, as the lives of Eddie Sachs and Dave McDonald were lost at the end of the 2nd lap, and that actually marked the end of gasoline fuel used at the Indy 500. So some of the great races in the 60s, and also doses of tragedy and some technical evolution as well.
So that's all we've got time for this week. Obviously, the ending of our sponsor challenge. If you enjoyed, let us know. If you've got any other recommendations, do let us know. Tell us your UK IndyCar, your UK sponsor, if you were going to drive an IndyCar around Brands Hatch or somewhere. And we've also recapped of the Dry and Ryan Bod news, as well as Connor Daly and Jamie Chadwick. And of course, we rounded that with the history. Next week, no idea what's on. Hopefully, something's going to be announced. I reckon Connor Daly might be announced, I think, or soon, but we will wait and see on that one because they've got to get round to it because there are how many days until St. Petersburg?
80 days when this episode drops until cars hit the track for the first time. It's hurtling quickly towards us, is it?
We're over halfway.
Maybe not. We're over halfway there.
Yeah, we're over halfway. So that's great news. That's a nice way to end off the episode. So next week, don't know what's in store. There'll be something. We'll work out what might be let's see, but you'll see in due course. But for this time, thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.